Hey there, welcome to the first episode of SciDi, short for Science Diagnostics. Alright, catchy name, even though I was sure a crazy science guy was gonna win. Case study, a friend of yours, let's call him Bob, approaches you one day. He's recently been in a weird mood, and you're pretty sure it's not the calculus exam that you guys had last Monday. Damn you, integration by parts. Despite the buckets of adrenaline your body was releasing when you couldn't solve questions 1 through 5 of the 5 questions of your calculus exam, you're pretty sure it's not that. You see, Bob insists that he can smell words. If he reads the word French fries, he smells fries. No! You quickly grab a piece of paper and write the word poop on it, and you show it to him, and just watch the magic happen. A male, mid-20s, 172 pounds, 5'11", tells you that he can smell words that describe things that aren't there. Is he dying? Probably not. His heart is still intact, it's not gone wacko, and it's still pumping blood throughout his body. But that's what we do here at SciDi. We grab case studies and we diagnose the science behind them. So what's the science behind this? And more interesting would be asking what science would smell like to Bob. So our story starts in 1889 when a Dutch painter by the name of Vincent van Gogh decided to voluntarily enter a mental asylum. Admittedly a smart move after he cut off his left ear. Kids at home, be careful with knives, they can cut off fingers and ears and During his wonderful 5-star stay at the asylum, he was still painting, and he drew this. The Starry Night, a depiction of how night looked just before sunrise from his room. But you'll notice that the picture looks kinda distorted. It's like things are hazy. Now, many theories have been placed forth to explain such distortions. You know, it wouldn't be that bad if we focused on the one with him being in the nut house. Good observation, Blue. Definition time. Psychosis is a severe mental disorder in which your thoughts and emotions are so jumbled up, you start experiencing reality differently. If you do have psychosis, you might be seeing me with a longer face or wider eyes. Van Gogh's painting shows what the sky looks like when you do have psychosis. And what's interesting is that psychosis can sometimes come along with hallucinations. Your sensory organs tell you that there's something there when there isn't something there. Like my Thor bobblehead right there might be a hallucination. That's it! The smells are hallucinations. Well done, Red. Unfortunately, that's a boring explanation. In all of the years you and Bob have been friends, he's been quite sane and hasn't tried to cut off his left ear. Probably. Then what could it be? At this point, it might serve us to dwell a bit on smells and how we do the whole smelling thing. Smells are surprisingly more than just smells. In her book Aroma, Constance Classen describes smells as a social phenomenon, invested with particular meanings and values by different cultures. You might be using your sense of smell to identify whether or not to eat that delicious burrito, or to evaluate a potential partner based on how good their perfume smells. Smell is complex, but the processes behind it are just redolent. Anything in this universe is made of tiny building blocks called atoms. And when those atoms join together, they form less tiny building blocks called molecules. When those molecules are in gaseous form, they can more easily move away from the object and into your nose. The anatomy of the human nose is extremely interesting, but for this episode's sake, we'll be focusing on this, the olfactory epithelium. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the place in the nose that has receptors. Put very briefly, receptors are things that connect anything to your brain. And you've got those receptors everywhere, in your ears, eyes, nose, skin, mouth, everywhere. So the odor molecules enter your nose and smack onto the receptors. Now the relationship between odors and receptors is quite complex, but let's try and explain it. So let's say these are your 5 receptors in your nose. A first group of odor molecules enter, and these register different values on the receptors. So it's half on the first, a quarter on the second, none on the third, a third on the fourth, and none on the last. And so you smell odor A. Odor B is much more intense with a particular receptor, so it scores 1 on the first receptor and 0s on the others. Imagine having millions of receptors and millions of fractional values for each. You can imagine the different combinations you could get from the matchup chart. Whatever your receptors read, those are basically translated into signals and shot to the brain. The brain then processes these signals and basically tells you what you're smelling, whether that be freshly mown grass or a slice of pizza. Smells have interested us for so long that we've actually started developing machines that can smell for us. But what's wrong with Bob? Well, Bob has a severe case of something called phantosmia, where he hallucinates smelling things. Instead of there being a very clear path between the nose receptors and the brain, Bob's brain is cooked up. This could mean that Bob's brain is sending signals of things that aren't there. He could be suffering from a neurological or a brain-related problem that's causing the phantosmia, which is basically causing the brain to send signals when it shouldn't. So what what does science smell like? To Bob, it could smell like a chicken burrito for all we know. The word science doesn't smell like anything if you write it down. Unless you're using a Sharpie, then it smells like a Sharpie. But for what it's worth, human development has moved far beyond trying to sniff out the meaning of words. We perceive the world and see, smell, taste, feel, and hear everything because of the 3 pounds of tissue in your skull. I perceive science as interesting, and I don't need to smell science to be able to perceive it as such. And if you do think science smells like something, tell me in the comments. For all we know, you could be psychotic. Light it up. Peace out. If you thoroughly enjoyed the content, push a like and just share this video. Share away. Go share.